Hi all, this is the State of Mind podcast with me, Richard Sefton. I like to delve into people's lives and minds and find out what makes them tick, find out where they've come from and where they are heading. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts or search State of Mind with Richard Sefton over on YouTube, like and subscribe. I wanted to know what sort of an impact putting yourself forward for election can have on your mental health, and so I decided to go and speak to one of the candidates in the upcoming City of Chester by-election. School teacher Rob Hurd has been confirmed as Lib Dem candidate for the City of Chester by-election, and he is sat across from me now. So Rob, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm very well.
Any anxiety around the next month? Anything big happening in the next month?
Yeah. Funnily enough, there's quite a big stage in my life that's happening. I'm standing for the City of Chester by-election as the Liberal Democrat candidate. Something I've never done before. Could be really interesting. Yes.
What's in your mind about election night?
I think it's because everything's really new. It's just actually I'm a bit worried about kind of the process of it all, and almost kind of if we don't get where we want to into kind of vote share and that sort of stuff, I think I'll be like pretty disappointed, because I feel like we've put in a load of work, and it's not just me, it's a whole team effort. Mm-hmm. So it's the feeling about letting the whole team down and being the face of the people, like the face of the team, really.
So you're taking on a lot of responsibility.
It is.
And I'm guessing that's very anxiety inducing.
Well, it is. Like I said, it's you being the face of something, and then there is so much work that goes on behind the scenes, and you form really good relationships with everybody, and so letting people down when it comes to that sort of stuff is really it gets really personal. And I think the other thing about it is because you're kind of carrying somebody's ideologies, you're kind of carrying their kind of hopes and their dreams, kind of actually what they generally believe for a better society and stuff. And I think if you worry about and I constantly worry about like letting people down and not representing their kind of ideology well enough, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. How much of your ideology, how much do you differ from the Lib Dems, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get it. I think to be honest, one of the nice things about the party is that if you don't necessarily agree with something, you can kind of turn around and go, actually, this is not necessarily something that I do agree with. That's kind of like a liberal philosophy, isn't it? Is that everybody's different, everybody's got their own voice. I think, you know, we had an MP who won a by-election, Sarah Green, who I've met, and she's absolutely cracking. She's an absolute force.
Where was that one?
She was Cheshire and Amersham.
Okay.
So that was the first of our kind of like...
All the way down.
Yeah, all the way down, yeah. It's the
first of your run.
Of the kind of like knocking the blue wall down, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And she basically said, look, it's not right. HST is not right for my constituents. We hate it here. And the party was kind of like, okay, well, don't campaign on it. You know, it's the official party line that we support HST. So that's quite nice. It's about being able to kind of, you know, choose what you want as what you think your vision is, which is great.
There was a few times when I thought I'd love to get into politics, but who would I pick? Because no party sort of sticks with all of my beliefs and everything. No party sort of goes with all of them. So I'm coming across. I'm coming back. I've been Lib Dem. Where I live is very well. It was for over 27 years very Labour.
Yeah.
Until bloody Brexit.
Of course, yeah.
And now we have the Tory MP under
out of what 600
under Mr Johnson, who didn't punish anyone. You know.
Well, he took the whip away from Antoinette Sandbach, and she's now stayed in Edinburgh. And she's been coming out to help on the campaign. She's phenomenal. Absolutely. That was because she didn't believe in Brexit, so that was her ideology. Like, didn't follow the party, so she did the principled thing.
Actually, yeah, he took a few out at the start. You're not with me, you're against me.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is just absolutely ridiculous, really.
Absolutely, it was just a load of yes men and women, and look how it turned out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look how it turned out. So, do you have any hope for winning? Are you allowed to answer that?
No.
Yes, I can answer that. Yes, we do.
I'm not allowed to answer no. Do you know what? Yes.
You answered.
Yeah, I did answer. So I think really, and I keep saying this, my line on this is really that democracy isn't about winning and losing, really, is it? It's not about who has yes, you need to have kind of power to be able to implement change and that sort of stuff, but it's more about representing people that can't all be represented. I think that's really, really important. I think I wouldn't be able to lie on my deathbed, obviously being a teacher, and I'm looking at the kids that are going through CAMS at the moment. I'm looking through the kids on food banks. We've got a food bank, we've got a clothes bank at school, like, which is just ridiculous if you think about it, that we're a developed country.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all the kids have got iPhones and stuff, because their parents are maxing out kind of any kind of credit they can to get iPhones, but which is important. It is, because otherwise they're going to feel that societal pressure to kind of fit in and stuff. So I actually do think that is quite important. But then we can't afford to clothe them, we can't afford to feed them. We're a poor society of rich individuals. So yeah, I think it's about standing up for those people, really, isn't it? And I wouldn't be able to lie on my deathbed and say that I'd done everything that I possibly could without having done this. And now I feel like I can actually do that.
So that is a brilliant answer to the people that tweet about these people on benefits that have Sky TV and iPhones.
Yeah.
It's because they're maxing out credit cards.
Well, no, I mean, it's. I don't think you can deny people stuff like that, because, you know, I'm not going to turn around and tell
Well, a lot of homework's done online now, isn't it?
Well,
so you need some kind of device.
Yeah, and actually what we found was during the pandemic is we were buying equipment for people to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And the government, who were ostensibly helping out, didn't. You know, they were. I was working just up the road at the time, and for the entirety of that school, because of the rates, the way it was done, they were given one laptop for the entire school to be shared.
Wow.
Shocking, you know. So yeah, it was just.
I mean, we had more than that when I was in school.
quite.
That's a long time ago. Long time
The
ago.
hamster in the wheel. Like.
Well, yeah, I'm just trying to work out, did they have laptops?
It was RM Nimbus and logo, wasn't it?
No idea, but shush. Stop it on that.
Charles Babbage was there. Tim Berners-Lee.
Berners-Lee, yeah, he was just knocking around, thinking of some ideas. I don't know what was going on in my school. I remember having an IT class, but it was very basic. I think it was like how to use Word.
Yeah, it was all.
Like
But to be honest,
and everything was, you know, done at home on paper.
But
yeah.
kids are what we're finding is that they can code. Like, kids can code now, but they can't open a Word file or save a Word file. It's really odd.
So they've skipped it.
Yeah, they've skipped all of that. I had a couple that have come up and started trying to like touch the monitor, like, and you're kind of like, no, that's not touchscreen, love.
Not that advanced. So right, let's go back.
Sorry.
Tell me about you growing up. What made you become you?
Okay, this is that. I mean, that's how long have you got? This
I've got however long.
So in essence, oh gosh, yeah, I had a bit of a weird kind of upbringing, in that I had a really, really happy childhood.
And that's weird in this day and age.
It is, yeah, I think it is. My dad was great. He was my dad's a teacher, my mum's a teacher, and they were like the epitome of the couple in love. They're like kind of the couple from Love Story. It's absolutely amazing. My mum wasn't ever allowed to go to university though when she was growing up. She was the oldest of three girls, but oldest girl out of 4 kids. And her mum committed suicide when she was 14. Wow. So my mum in essence ended up like raising her younger sisters. And I think that always had a massive impact on her, and so she really wanted this kind of freedom, this liberation, and but she wasn't allowed to go to university, so she did what the family told her she should do, and she went and worked in a bank for a while. After that, she went, forget this, I'm gonna be independent. So she when we were kind of about 4 or 5, she went back to university. She retrained to be a teacher. But on the morning that she graduated, she was diagnosed with MS. So she was a chairman of governors at my local school for 14 years, and they turned around and they were like, we can't give you a job here, because it was before the Disability Discrimination Act. So she wasn't allowed to work there, because she was a danger to the kids if there was a fire, apparently, because she couldn't lead them out of the classroom.
Oh, that must have been heartbreaking.
Well, it was a dream. It was absolutely a dream. Do you know what I mean? So, so I was pretty much a young carer for my mum from about 8 onwards. Mm-hmm. I think, which was really tough actually. because I don't think I really realised until afterwards how much of an impact it had on my dad, because my dad was the one who was going out to work and then coming back and having to do almost a second job, looking after her, and to be fair, you know, he used to go out on a Friday night. That was his one sacrosanct night out, to go and play squash on a Friday night, and that would be when me and my sister would lift my mum into bed, or like generally me, to be fair, and she was completely incontinent, so but she still wanted to have a couple of glasses of wine or whatever, so me and my sister just used to end up kind of like having half of the bottle of wine, like so that she wouldn't get so drunk, like to lift her into bed, because she'd just be like a dead weight. So that was about at the age of 13 and 14, so this like real kind of happy childhood kind of really quickly descended into a little bit of kind of, you know, everything that my mum had strived for it not to be, really. So I think that it all went a little bit crazy and downhill from there.
Well, my girlfriend in a different life, her dad had MS, and I suppose she was a young carer from an early age. But being the same age, I didn't really give it much thought about what she would be going through, what she had to go through.
Well, my dad kind of so when I came out when I was 14, my dad associated me being gay with having seen too much of my mum. Like, so for quite a long while, he blamed my mum for it, because it was kind of like, well, you know, you've seen things that a kid of 13, 14 years old shouldn't have been seeing at that age, and that's why. I was like, it wasn't for that, you know. I fancied Jason Donovan long before I saw anything.
Oh, I don't think that's to do with being... that, you know,
that's just having bad taste.
Yeah, it's having bad taste. We're a similar age, so coming out at 14, in my mind, that was early for them. I mean, I was 17, I know there's not a massive difference, but
there is
at that age, there is, Yeah. And I was 17, so and I thought that was kind of early-ish for back then. So 14.
But I mean, we had internet, and I think this is probably one of the early dangers of the internet, you know. So we had, and I was on MSN chat talking to, like, you know, older guy, you know, and you kind of think, actually that was so dangerous at that age. I think. So I think that was kind of a bit of the awakening there anyway, and I think this is how my mum found out, actually, is I'd written a letter, I'd written like a diary entry to myself, and she'd kind of wheeled herself into my room one time and read that entry, and then she kind of questioned me about it. And do you know what, I'm really happy she did, because so my mum died when I was 20, but she died knowing pretty much everything about me. I think you know, I've got friends who didn't come out until they were, you know, 24 or 25, and I think if I'd have waited that long, then I don't know how I'd have been able to reconcile myself with the fact that my mum didn't know everything about me, you know, So what is your relationship with your mum now? I know she's gone, but what is your relationship with her? You're never going to forget that person who was so instrumental in your life, are you? And still, she died when I was 20. I'm 38, so that's 18 years, and I'm nearly at the point where I've lived half of my life with her and half my life without her. But she is still the inspiration to me for everything that she went through. She's still the, you know, she literally gave everything to make sure that me and my sister kind of did really well in life. So I think. She's still very strong in my mind. From the political side of things, I don't really know where she stood, politically. My dad's very socialist, he's like a paid up member of the Labour Party. And
so could you assume?
I think she was probably right wing.
Really?
Yeah, I think
opposites attract.
Well, quite exactly. So she used to listen to like classical experience and stuff, like in the kitchen, which I know it doesn't necessarily make a right wing, but her dad was really Plaid Cymru, back when Plaid Cymru were kind of like a proper nationalist party. So yeah,
are they not now? I'm joking.
No, as in kind of like as in right wing national. You know, when they were kind of, you know.
Where's he from then?
So my grandfather, they're all from like Penygris and the Llŷn Peninsula.
Okay, because I don't meet many people kind of border in England that want independence, and you know, I can't see how it would work living in just over the border.
Well, I can't see how it would work for Chester Football Club. They'd have an absolute nightmare.
Absolutely. Especially if they put a toll in.
Absolutely. passport control, like half the players, like, you know, getting red carded for not having the right visa. Absolutely shocking.
Yeah, because I would imagine they'd go back into the EU, even though they voted to leave.
I think that's really tough, though. Like, I mean, just one of the questions that I always get asked is about kind of, would you rejoin? And a couple of people have said, when, you know, what's the difference between rejoining EU and the Lib Dems?
Well, I was going to ask Labour versus Lib Dem, because Labour have got the Make Brexit Work.
Yeah,
policy,
so Rachel Reeves came out and said something earlier this week, which has just turned loads of people off, because she's basically said, look, that ship sailed, and I've had about 3 or 4.
That's the party line, isn't it? Now, 'cause
Yeah.
I heard someone yesterday saying it. Sorry.
What we're gone? What did you say?
No. What you were saying, but I can't remember who was saying it yesterday. Exactly. You know, almost the same words.
So we've had, in essence, I've had about 3 or 4 people on Twitter.
Annalise Dodd.
Was it Annalise Dodd?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. We've had about 3 or 4 people on Twitter who've said, right, well, that's it. My decision's made up, and I'm going for Rob Hurt, which is like, it's lovely, like to get that vote of support. But actually, what we really want is we want the country to work like okay, I'm settling for okay at the moment, because it's in such a state that actually we need to get okay before we can get good. I think, and this is the whole point, is if we rejoin tomorrow, or we said, right, let's rejoin tomorrow, we don't know what conditions it would be under. So would we have to accept the euro? You know, would we have to, we wouldn't get the same kind of tariffs or whatever. We just don't know that sort of stuff. So I understand why people think it's a little bit flaky, that you don't want to say yes, rejoin, or no, don't rejoin. But you just don't know what's going to happen. I'm definitely pro EU, and I want to get regulatory alignment and stuff. But again, would Britain be really prepared to accept the euro? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? And I do wonder. Nothing can be done majorly unless you're in power, can it? And I'm wondering if it's just their line to kind of get in,
get them in bed,
get over the line, and then they'll relook at it.
But that worked really well for the Lib Dems when they went back on a manifesto they pledged, didn't it? You know. So to be fair, I'm pretty sure that that would be a big mistake.
What specifically are you talking about when you say that?
I'm talking about the
coalition.
Coalition.
Yeah, but there was a coalition there. I always feel that they were given the bad end of the stick there, because it's a coalition, a compromise basically.
Yeah.
And so things had to be dropped, things had to be changed.
Yeah.
I always thought that the Lib Dems came off so much worse than the Tories in that, and yet it was a compromise on both sides. It had to be.
I think if you look at the stuff that was done during the coalition, the stuff that was done was really, really good. But actually, yes, you're right. I think the Tories kind of
gay marriage, wasn't
it? Well, so that was introduced by Davey. The clause that introduced that was introduced. Oh no, sorry, that was Section 28. Was it? Section 28. I think the clause. No, it was gay marriage. I was reading about it this morning. But yeah, gay marriage was Lynn Featherstone's kind of idea. She was a Scottish Lib Dem MP, who I've got a T-shirt with her, like almost like Barack Obama forwards kind of thingy on it. There was also like stuff like the People Premium for kids, which is like absolutely amazing. So we talk about tuition fees, and yes, tuition fees have risen, and universities needed that money to be able to be sustainable and keep going and have research and that sort of stuff. But we don't talk about People Premium, which when it came in, gave money to people, to basically, in essence, the poorest kind of in society from the word go. So actually we'll start to see the benefit of that really on an economic scale probably in about 2 or 3 years, and the kids that I teach absolutely rely on that. You know, it's the way that we can afford TAs, it's the way that we can afford, you know, and in terms of mental health, it's really that money is absolutely vital in making sure that they're secure and comfortable in school.
I'm just sat here now thinking that it would be great for every MP to be a teacher, because the children are the future. Wow. and you're seeing what's going on with society kind of there.
Yeah.
Without any sort of like rose-tinted spectacles or anything.
Justin Trudeau did this in Canada.
He's on Drag Race next week.
Is he?
Yeah.
Amazing. See, I've got a little thing on my work, on my desk at work that says, "What would Justin do?" I love that guy, like on every level. So as part of his cabinet, he had a doctor who was head of the NHS. He had a teacher who was head of the education. He was
I tweeted this the other week. Why don't we have that? You know, but I don't understand why we don't do that. we kind of throw people into a job and just expect them to hit the ground running, sometimes from hardly any experience.
Well, this is a point that I was kind of making the other day. We've got like Jeremy Hunt, who is a massive billionaire, millionaire, whatever he is. He's got a lot of money, and he wrote a book on how to privatise the NHS, and then became health secretary, and now is chancellor. And it's kind of like we've got somebody who has a shed load of money, and they're basically forecasting for somebody with a zero disposable income and saying, oh well, you should be able to survive on that, you know. And it's kind of well, it's a little bit hypocritical. I think one of the big criticisms of politics and politicians, which is why we need kind of normal people and not career politicians, is that they just don't understand really. They don't get people are, you know, I want to say 50p in the meter. I don't think there are many people with like meters anymore, thank goodness, but like they don't get the 50p in the meter.
I'm an electric meter, because EDF will not change it for me. Right. They said because I raised a complaint way back when, they won't even like discuss it with me. I'm like, Richard, I just want something doing.
They've blacklisted you because you were a difficult Karen, haven't they?
just want something doing. Just want changing off my meter, and they will not engage, and it's doing my head in. I'm like, oh my god, yeah.
Well, as if energy prices weren't going up, it wasn't enough, then you're not going to have any.
Exactly. Well, mine are going up like even more because of that. It's mental. The world is mental.
The whole thing about that is it's not just like it's not 50p in the meter people anymore either. It's people with mortgages on £1 million houses, so those kind of middle earners and higher earners that the Conservatives have normally traditionally appealed to, they've got these big mortgages because they aspire to have big houses, and their mortgages might cost them £2,500 a month. They go to renew the mortgage or come out of that fixed term, and that's going up from 1% to 5%. That's a massive leap, you know. And it's so, to be fair, it's literally kicking everybody. Like it's just really badly thought through.
Well, like I say, it's crazy at the minute. Everyone seems to be struggling. And it's funny because when I'm on Twitter, I get called middle class because I've got I double barrel my name on there. I get called middle class. I'm like, about 6 years ago, 7 or 8 years ago, I was using food banks. Yeah. I was raised in a family where my mum didn't qualify for free school meals because she worked a certain amount of hours, and yet she couldn't afford to give us dinner money. So, you know, a lot of the time I ate the. My best mate used to give me the sausage out of his sausage roll and he'd eat the pastry. And I'd have a little bit of cheese left in the dairy.
It's absolutely heartbreaking.
But kids are resilient, aren't they? And I was, and it didn't really, I don't think it affected me. In fact, I think it added resilience, it gave me more resilience, I suppose. But to think of a kid now, for me to think of a younger me doing that, it does break my heart.
Because the thing is, you're obviously very kind of resilient and lively. I think there are a lot of kids that I know at school that aren't, you know, and had you had a different kind of parenting, maybe a different kind of take on life, then actually that could have been horrendous. You know, I've got 3 or 4 kids at school who've got eating disorders, like hospitalised with eating disorders, you know, and they're rolling around school in a wheelchair at the moment because of stuff like that. You know, they're just not resilient enough to be able to take that, you know.
Yeah, I think, I suppose there's all kinds of different factors, isn't there? But I mean, it wasn't the easiest of childhoods. So I suppose I did develop resilience, but my mum was so loving, so caring, so much there for us. That, you know, maybe that mix of badness and the goodness, you know, makes a resilient child.
Like having a right-wing mother and a socialist father, you've ended up in the middle.
Yes, a right-wing mother because she listens to classical music.
Yeah, absolutely. Or a good mother because she listens to classical music. Yeah, okay.
So what's your dad like then? You know, socialist dad. What is it?
Red Rog. You know, that's what he was called. He was so socialist. No, so my dad. 1970s Labour wasn't quite left-wing enough for my dad, so he set up a new socialist party in Bridgewater.
Your dad did?
Yeah.
Wow, okay. Wow.
Yeah. So I think he's long since folded, but yes, he's a really good guy, very into his rugby and stuff like that, and I think had real issues with me coming out and stuff because he just hadn't been exposed to it. It's the era when Queer as Folk was first coming on TV. It was 2 years after the AIDS the horrible AIDS adverts with the gravestones falling down and stuff like that. And of course he was a teacher as well, so he was kind of wasn't allowed to talk about homosexuality in schools because of Section 28, and I think he was very nervous about talking about it at home because of that as well. I think that's one of the benefits now, is every teacher that I know knows about how to treat an LGBT child because they've had training on it at school, and so if their kid is kind of at home, if that happens, then at least they can fall back on that as well. He was hesitant about the whole thing to start off with, I think. And then after my mum died in March, but he got together with somebody in December afterwards. The rascal.
Hey, we all need somewhere. We all deserve
we all want company. And her younger brother was gay, is gay, and was a helicopter pilot in the RAF. So they got on really, really well. And I think my dad kind of realised that actually you're not automatically gonna try drag and like wear sequins and stuff if you're gay. There's lots of different,
because this is the assumption
things.
Isn't it, for a lot of people, especially like you say, if you haven't been exposed to it. I remember, I think it was Cilla Black's autobiography, and she was saying that she didn't think that gay people existed because she'd never sort of been exposed to them.
Yeah.
And then later on in life, I think everyone in a circle was just a big gay Christopher Biggins and Paula Grady and all this. But
I can't believe
big
you've read Cilla Black's autobiography.
do you know what? I went for a phase of loving autobiographies, but showbiz autobiographies.
Right.
I just finished Melanie Season, and it's like the best one that I've read.
Oh, really? Okay, wow.
Really, really, really honest. And I was like, that happened? God, we weren't told about that. How did the press not know about that?
Yeah.
It was brilliant, like arguments, her and Mel B all the time. Anyway, I would love a Spice Girl on here. I'm working my way in. I've got one of her friends coming on.
I have you, brilliant. Okay.
To be announced.
Right. Let's see what Twitter can do before it goes into complete and utter meltdown.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's what people assume, isn't it? So that's all right. Do you want a drink of water?
No, I've been out on the campaign trail, and it's been cold and wet, quite frankly, and I'm literally up at 7 o'clock, and I go to bed at about 11 o'clock at night and I've still got to go to full-time work at the same time. So I'm literally I've had a cold. You know when you feel like you've got a cold and it's there. It'll come out when I sit down. I've had it for about 2 weeks and I haven't actually sat down yet. So like I'm just waiting until December the 2nd, and it'll just flood my body with its infection.
We have a glass screen in between us both.
Absolutely not.
That's so. Where do you, so you've got the Tories over here.
Yeah.
You've got Labour over here.
Yeah.
Where's Lib Dem sit for you?
Do you know what? I'm not sure that I necessarily subscribe to that whole kind of, people in different places kind of anymore. And I think because Brexit has really kind of divided those people as well. Mm-hmm. I think you've got to look at policy, and you've got to look at actually what's right for what's the line of best fit for me, and to a certain extent the ideology. I do find that there's a lot of people who are conservatives that are conservatives because that's a natural place for them to go. They just go, well, that's what I am. That's what I've always been. So we'll stay as that.
Conservative because they're conservative, yeah.
And they're the people to go out and vote conservative. They're like, Rishi Sunak, Boris Johnson, Liz Truss could have done whatever they liked, but they'll still turn around and say, actually, no, I'm a conservative, because
could have done whatever they liked, or did.
Well,
or tried to.
Yeah, absolutely demolished everything that they possibly could with their 40-day little experiment. And I think Labour is very. I feel bad about saying this because I don't like being very negative about lots of about other people and othering. I'm very happy to call stuff out where I don't think it's right. But most of the trolling, most of the hate that I get online generally comes from Labour supporters.
See, this was going to be my answer. That's where I was going. Where do you sit with the hate? How much hate do you get? Where does it come from?
Quite a fair amount, actually. To be fair,
from the Labour side.
Well, I've never had anything from Conservative side, and I get a little bit of passive aggressive stuff. Do
you think that's because you eat into the Labour vote rather than the Conservative vote more so?
I don't know. I'd like. This is the problem with our politics. This is why our system's absolutely broken. This is why we need PR, because actually nobody's treading on anybody's toes here, and it's exactly what I said. It's not about winning and losing. It's about standing up for people and their voice. And if somebody's irritated at me for standing up for what I believe in, then then I'm just doing what their preferred candidate is doing as well. You know, we've lost this ability to disagree with civility in this country. You know, I don't think. And I said this to the Conservative candidate and to Sam Dixon, the Labour candidate. I said, in essence, we all want the same thing. We all want Chester to be kind of more prosperous. We want people to not have to rely on food banks, you know. We just disagree about how to do it. I'm not sure how well that registered. I'm not sure if they agree, but that's generally my sentiment. You know, I'm not trying to take anybody's vote away from. I'm not trying to take anything away from anybody, but I am trying to stand up for people who otherwise wouldn't have a voice.
So on that then, what can you specifically bring to people of Chester? Not the party. Like, if you were to get in, what could you specifically do? What could you specifically bring?
Well, I think, you know, I'm a teacher, and we've spoken about this. You know, it's real world experience, isn't it? It's about empathy. It's about caring. It's about understanding, integrity, honesty. I have a friend who used to work as a parliamentary aide, and he turned around and he was like, you know, you've got to. Do you not think that being a career politician is a good thing? And I was like, I'm not necessarily sure that it is, because I think people vote for you because they want you to make the right decision at the right time. The putting that into motion, putting that into process and stuff like that can be done by the civil service, that can be done by the civil servants. But actually I think what they want is somebody who's going to make the right decision, i.e. not having a... I was about to swear then. Not having a party.
I think I said fuck before.
Like, not having a party in the middle of COVID. They don't want people to make those decisions. They don't want people, like I said it on TV the other day, don't want people to call each other Jabba the Hutt or a human bollard at the dispatch box, because it's just not nice. Like, you know, and that's what I think that people need and want to see. You know, I mean, yes, it might be boring, it might be a bit grey, but God, don't we wish for the grey old days of British politics now that we've had years of absolute anarchy.
Yeah, funny enough, we were talking earlier on about Johnson throwing people out, and I had Anna Soubry on the podcast. That was a really interesting chat.
How was she? What's she like?
I've always really admired her.
Yeah.
I don't know, I just love the fact that she used to stand up and just speak her mind, and you don't tend to get that now. You get people parroting each other and sticking to whatever they're all saying on one side.
Yeah.
I like to hear a bit of different, and I think the country likes to hear a bit of difference. They like to hear people standing up for them.
It does need that. I mean, so I used to live in France. I was in France when my mum died, and what I really liked about the politics in France was that it was really polarised, and I was like, oh, we need this substance in British politics, because there was always Jean-Marie Le Pen and Marine Le Pen, and then there was Jacques Chirac, and you had a choice basically between someone who was far right or somebody who'd embezzled like millions of euros, probably francs back then, in showing my age, in Paris.
What's a franc? Made up currency.
I don't get me started. You're really making me feel old now.
I'm older than you.
There we go.
I mean, just.
Oh, did you have to add that one in just slightly at the end?
Just.
Yeah. So, and I was kind of going, oh, I wish British politics had this level of substance behind it, and then you kind of go, actually, no, I really don't want it to be that polarised anymore, because it's actually really bad for people, and it goes down to this disagreement again. People can't disagree civilly anymore, like, you know.
Social media plays is a big talking point on a lot of these episodes, and how nasty people can be from behind it. Normally anonymous accounts, you know, but
I think what I find, it's also, there's a perceived nastiness about it. So I'm going to try and be as anonymous as possible with this, but I'm on Nextdoor, which is an app which is basically for your locality type thing. And it's a really good app for keeping people in touch with each other in the local area. You know, I'm selling this kind of baby grow.
Yeah, I think I've got it in my area.
And just at the start of the election, I just said, you know, hi, I'm Rob. I've been on here for ages, you know. And then people start to comment underneath, and you kind of read that comment, and then somebody else who I deal with in kind of like in a political capacity, you know, said something along the lines of, you know, this must have been decided before maybe you weren't listening, or before you were on the parish council or something, and you read those comments, and actually you kind of read them automatically. You read them as a passive aggressive kind of, this person's attacking me, and actually that might not be the case. And I'd like to think that it wasn't the case, and give somebody the benefit of the doubt and step back and kind of go, I hope that isn't what I hope you weren't intending to attack me. However, I think from sat behind a screen, when you can't read into the tone or the nuance,
it's the tone and the nuance you have. The amount of times that my family's all fallen out of each other because of WhatsApp messages, and they've not been meant in the way that. And I'm really bad for doing it, because I'll send a message and I'll put the phone down, and then I don't see all the millions of messages. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? So yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of people are getting hate online and stuff. I think that it's that perceived hatred, isn't it? It's that perceived that, and I'm sure that's borne out my own insecurities as well, to be fair,
Well, I'm gonna now explain what you're wearing.
Oh, right, yeah. Okay.
Rob's wearing a lovely baby blue, would you say?
Yeah, I would say baby spice blue.
Baby spice blue, even better. Jumper that says "Boys get sad too" on it. What makes you sad?
I've told you about my mum and growing up with my mum as a carer. So I started taking antidepressants when I was about 14, I think. And I think at the time they put me on, it's either Seroxat or fluoxetine, and one of them increases teenage suicide rates. And so instantly they were like, right, that needs to stop. So so I started from about 14, and then have really been on and off ever since. And it's not necessarily I think there's this general kind of unease with the way things are. I think there's a little bit of anxiety about, am I good enough for this? Am I good enough? Am I representing myself? Am I representing my family? Am I doing the best that I can in this situation? I think it's a very selfish feeling, and I think then that gets into your head and you kind of go, oh, right, am I being selfish? Am I being, because I want to be a good person. I remember when I was 14, my best mate came and sat on my bed, and she was being bullied at school. She's a wonderful human being. So she just, nobody deserves to be bullied, but least of all her, and she sat down on my bed and she just went, why can't people just be nice? And that's kind of literally stayed with me ever since. It's like, why can't people just be nice? So everything that I do is just, I'm going to try and be nice, to people. Because what is it to you? It doesn't hurt you. It doesn't take a lot of effort to have that kind of philosophy. So just be nice, and I think it's that not living up to that as well is quite a difficult thing, because I can be a little bit of a bitch sometimes, because let's face it, I'm gay.
Happen.
Yeah, there's been times when I've clicked at the screen when somebody's not wearing what I think they should be wearing on Drag Race. That's happened. However, are
you a big Drag Race fan?
I love Drag Race. Absolutely.
I get made to watch it, but
what do you mean you get made
to?
Nobody should be made to watch it.
Well, it's just on all the time. It's like oxygen. You can't escape it.
Perfect. Absolutely brilliant.
But it's like the X Factor 10 years ago, and it was Britain's Got Talent, then that would finish. Then it'd be the X Factor, then that would finish. Then Britain's Got Talent, and I just thought, give it a rest for a bit, and then people all enjoy it more. Sure.
It hasn't got the sob stories that the X Factor had.
It's getting them now.
It's more stuff like the trans issues and stuff like that, which actually I find really interesting, because it's a different perspective.
Exactly. I find it interesting because I've not got that direct experience, and I do want to know more about trans issues. I do want to be the best ally that I can, I suppose. And
do you know what? I always talk about this with people when they say, "Oh, just support trans rights and stuff," and I kind of think that's a bit like somebody turning around saying, "Just support gay rights" in the 1990s, isn't it? Really, what it took a larger section of the population to turn around and say, "Actually, no, I am allied with this. I'm going to push it forwards because I'm going to stand up for the people, the little person." And that's why I managed to have a nice house with my other half, and we get to sit and watch TV on a Saturday night without being judged by other people, because people fought for us, and so actually
You've got some quite high walls around you.
There's a reason for that. You haven't met our neighbours.
Beautiful high wall. Beautiful place.
Well,
beautiful garden as well.
It's taken a while to get here.
I bet the dog loves it.
It's part of this keeping up with the Joneses, isn't it? I mean, like you will see our friends' houses. Like next year, one person does an extension, and then everybody's like, "I want to do that now."
I want to meet the Joneses. Then in that case,
no, you don't. You don't. It's ridiculous.
So
polished concrete everywhere.
Are you a Harry Potter fan?
So my sister's wedding was Harry Potter themed.
Okay.
Like, so each of her tables was Goblet of Fire or Order of the Phoenix.
Oh
or
my
whatever.
god, that's a brilliant thing.
Yeah, it was really good. And like her top table, so her cake.
I mean, not what I was getting at with the question, but
Like, so I really liked it. Like not necessarily the films, but the books. I've read the books in like 3 languages. They're really good books.
So you
read
can
into
separate the
language.
art from the artist.
I think I find it more and more difficult now, actually, because that book was quite a good comfort for quite a lot of people, because it's about somebody who is ostracised and not necessarily somebody who fits in, and it was about the geeky kids, you know. And I find it really difficult now that's not come from the place that I thought it came from. I think you can separate the art from the artist. My friend's got a Rolf Harris picture in his living room, and it's a beautiful picture. Would I want it in mine? Probably not.
Well,
You know?
but then what is it? What that makes it different? Is it time? Because aren't Caravaggio's pictures all young naked lads and stuff like that?
Yeah.
So is it time that makes it different because they're celebrated?
Yeah, I genuinely don't know.
Michael Jackson's music. I know there was no.
I didn't like Michael Jackson's music in the
my
first
God,
place.
I just lately, weirdly, I can't stop listening to Man in the Mirror.
Oh, really?
Maybe
Okay.
there's something there.
Yeah, I was going to say, do we need to explore this?
Yeah.
So tell me, how do you feel when you look in the mirror, Richard?
Absolutely love that. Actually, no, I've got lots of grey hairs appearing that need cutting off.
You're sorry, were you older or younger than me again? Just older. Just. I get all of mine shaved off at the side. It's the only way you can get
mine needs shaving off. I've got lots in the mix up here as well, but I actually don't mind going grey. I'd rather that than it falling out. And so far, like at the minute, my hairline starts at the back of my neck. I just pull it forward.
Brilliant.
Hence the cap that I'm
I
wearing.
always said that I would grow old gracefully, like as in I wouldn't do the whole kind of. So again, it's probably quite apt. Always had real bad body image, like as in really been really body conscious.
From what age?
Day dot really.
Okay.
I remember I didn't really know how to work out or anything, and I bought a book called From Scrawny to Brawny.
Like in the gay section.
It was a mail order purchase. It tells you everything you need to know. And it was and I would never. I think I took my t-shirt off on the beach about 3 times in my 20s. So I've always had quite a negative body image, and then I started about 5 or 6 years ago. I got a PT and started going to the gym. Part of that, I think, was I didn't like the machismo when you walked into the gym. This gym bros going, you know, the chest beating kind of, and that was my perception, that it was just going to be full of like steadheads and stuff like that. But actually, it's done wonders, like in terms of confidence and stuff, going to the gym. And there's something really lovely just about going to the gym after you've had a horrible day at work and just throwing heavy stuff around. It's just, there's something quite primordial about it. Like it's quite, you know.
No, do you find that it helps with mental health as well?
Absolutely. I think it is really, really important. It's an hour kind of. I normally go about 3 or 4 times a week. I've got a PT for 2 of those, and I think part of the fact is I really trust him. Anyway, going to the gym for mental health is really. It gives you space to just be able to think for a while. You know, you don't have to think about anything else other than that. It's almost mindfulness, isn't it, really? Because you've got to concentrate on what you're doing, because if you don't, then you won't be able to lift the weight and you'll end up like stuck under a barbell.
Well, I only use the machines. I'm too scared to go onto the floor.
Also, my gym has this great motto on the outside. It says, "We don't have machines, we make machines."
I like that. Because somebody says, "What have you done to the gym today?" And I go, "I went on that machine, and then I went on that machine, and then I went on, and I go through my machines."
If you're actually going to use that, I feel like I should probably explain the movements that you've just done.
Sorry, I was doing arm movements to show the machines that I'm using. I can't describe it. I'm not that articulate today.
It was
late night last night. It's a Sunday morning. But then I go from there. I go and sit lie in the steam room.
Yeah.
and that's where I do my mindfulness.
Right.
Couldn't get the word then. I was thinking of the total wrong word, which would have been another one of those. Do we need to look into this moment? Yeah, and I lie down and I zone out. And I think with going to the gym, working out, and then that it does wonders for my mental health, because we all. My day job, I'm a mental health counsellor, and yet we all have mental health that goes up and down. And my friend, name drop, my friend Ian Dale says that he's never suffered with his mental health.
I don't think that anybody can ever say that.
See, it fascinates me when he says that, and yet when he did the episode of this, cried 3 times. Right. Not saying that it was suffering with mental health, but there's something going on there. There's regardless of what it is, there's something going on.
Well, I think so. What it's done for me is, yes, it's that absolute mindfulness. You get to kind of really kind of just focus on that, but also there's the residual stuff, which is really the aim, I guess, of getting a better body and actually not having body confidence issues anymore. So it's win-win really.
I'm feeling better since my chest is actually outwards now instead of inwards. only just because my stomach is still protruding a little bit further than that. But, but doing the gigs like last night where I'm jumping around like a lunatic, it's really good.
Yeah, I'm doing about 20,000 steps on the campaign trail at the moment. Like every day, it's great.
That's really good. Well, we went to Tenerife the other week, and my partner was so angry with me because every day I was walking about 8-9 miles, but in like proper heat.
I was going to say I would be angry with you as well.
I can't relax. I'm at the minute going through an assessment. I keep saying this. At the minute, I'm going through an assessment for ADHD. It's been going for ages, but surely this is ADHD territory. If it was done the next day, then they'd go, "No, you ain't got it."
I mean, that would be really irritating. Wouldn't it? It'd be like, well, what is the reason for my hyperactivity then?
People. I met someone on holiday. My friends Andrew and Sean. I met someone on holiday, this Scottish guy, and about 20 minutes later he went, "I'm getting strong ADHD vibes from you, Richard." And I text Andrew and Sean sent one back saying it took him 20 minutes. Brilliant. So I was like, okay. And then Patsy, who's also in the choir, I was walking with her the other day and she said, "You haven't got a diagnosis?" And I said, "No." She said, "Oh, I did my dissertation on ADHD. And I just always assumed that you were a diagnosed adult male with ADHD."
Oh my gosh.
Oh, okay. Maybe I need to follow this through then eventually and get this diagnosis. Anyway, speaking of diagnosis, you were on antidepressants at 14.
Yeah.
Who did you talk to get to that stage?
That was my mum. I remember distinctly my mum taking it. This was back in the days when you had your family doctor. So our GP was Dr. Wood, and we went down to the surgery. I remember going down to the surgery and my mum saying, he's been crying a lot recently. How what do we need to do about this? And I went through a little bit of counselling, but it wasn't particularly helpful, if I'm very honest with you. Mm-hmm. So then then he turned around and said, it's time we moved on to onto some antidepressants. And then I think that kind of went on and off for a while, and then certainly after my mum died I went back on them. I remember because I used to smoke at the time, and my dad was really worried with me after my mum died, because I'd just go out for a cigarette and I'd just have like a furrowed brow, when your triangle of sadness was just like I had 3 lines in it, and he was
would you be able to put your, how happy would you say you are now? On a scale of maybe 1 to 10.
Well, to be fair, I still take antidepressants, so it's a little bit. I don't think I will ever not.
Do you feel that there's still a stigma attached to antidepressants?
I think there is. Mm-hmm. I don't think there should be. I think so. I was really, really keen to talk to you today, actually, because I think it's probably one of the biggest things that I do think there is still a massive stigma about this and HIV, and I feel like they do need to be kind of batted down, because again, the kids that I've got at school, you see that range of emotions in them, and it's about being able to put your finger on it, and turn around and say, actually, there is a bit of an issue here now. If I'm allowed to get political again for 2 seconds.
Of course you can. This is your stage.
I think the nature of the last MP's resignation, being really, really careful not to say anything about it on the campaign trail, because I think
you've been really careful not to say. Okay, yeah.
I asked the campaign not to as well, because I kind of think of Carl Sargent in 2017, who committed suicide after similar allegations, and it's just not something that you would ever want for anybody, to be in that situation where they don't feel like they can get enough help, and I understand that some people might not think that is befitting of what they've done, but actually, everybody's a human, and everybody needs to be treated with some level of humanity.
That's admirable.
Well, I don't think it is. I think it's just human. Is it?
Okay. Yeah. True.
I think,
living in a 22 Great Britain, I suppose things are a little bit skewed, and those things that are just human just seem nice.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing is like 10 years ago, we wouldn't even be having this discussion. You wouldn't, and I think that's just how far we've come. That's our inability to agree civilly anymore, isn't it? Everybody's always got to jump onto something at the moment.
Funny enough, though, it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much to. I mean, the reason that I became friends with Ian Dale is because I insulted him on Twitter. He pointed out where I was wrong, and I apologised. And he was shocked that I'd apologised, and I said, I'll always apologise if I'm in the wrong. And that's like an alien concept.
It is. Yeah, I agree, and I think, but that comes down to that wanting to be the best that you can be and be good enough. I think actually you've got to accept the first person that you've got to look at whenever there's a bit of an argument, when there's a bit of a conflict, is yourself, and turn around and go, right, what did I do wrong in that situation? How could I have made that situation better? And I think that's really, really important, because then if you can turn around and say, actually, do you know what, my bad, that was that was something that I needed to do, that I got wrong there, then you're more likely to move things forward. Isn't that what everybody wants to progress, don't they? Like, I don't know.
Earlier on, you kind of described kind of imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking, hang on a minute, what are you about to do in the next couple of weeks? Put yourself before people to say, judge me.
Yeah. I think that's part of kind of standing up to stuff and saying, actually, take the bull by the horns, and kind of, and that being good enough, and that turning around and saying, well, look, if it's not me, then who's it going to be? If it's, so I think that's part of that, looking in the mirror and kind of going, actually, do you know what? I'll be judged anyway. Like, put my money where my mouth is. I can't sit behind a screen any longer and just go, you're an idiot, you're an idiot, you're an idiot, without actually doing something about it myself.
I like that. I want to come out campaigning with you. I'll get chased out of town.
I've got leaflets in the car. I'll take you. You can take some with you. No,
I would actually love to see, because I've never done it. I've never had anyone knock on my door even.
Really?
So I don't even know.
Where should I ever get?
Not in the city of Chester, sadly. Actually, I've got to say, if I did live in the city of Chester, my natural choice would probably be to vote with Labour.
Yeah.
But I have to say, if I lived in the city of Chester now, I would have I'd have to have a word with myself.
I think it's there's a lot of people that think that, going back to what you were saying about splitting the vote and stuff, and people saying, are you taking stuff off them? There's a lot of people that do really still think that, and I don't think that's. I think Labour have got Chester now as a safe seat for Labour.
I think for me it's about the tactical vote until the current, and I say the current Tory party because I know that it used to be decent.
Yeah.
I just don't think it is at the minute, and until they're gone, I personally can't risk my vote.
Yeah.
If I lived in a Lib Dem area, I would, like I say, tactical vote in a green area, Brighton and Hove or whatever, I would be voting them. But for me, I can't even give much thought to the way that I vote at the minute. Yeah. I need to vote the way that I'm voting for that purpose. Who knows? I might be a Labour voter, but I never used to be. I used to be Lib Dem. I used to have the bollocks to Brexit sign in my window. That wasn't even that long ago.
So really interestingly, as part of this, you have to go through like
a Joe Swinson
then? Joe Swinson or Vince Cable. I think probably Vince Cable.
Okay.
Because Joe Swinson was 2017, wasn't she?
Who?
Yeah, quite. We've had words with ourselves. There was before I came onto this, before I came like doing the by-election campaign, had to go through loads of social media. Like I had to have a social media check, and it prints off a list of every time that you've sworn on social media, like ever.
Really?
44 pages was my document.
Oh,
but I was really.
I don't even know what mine would be.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was really lucky because actually most of it was bollocks to Brexit stuff. So I was like, well, hey, that's party sanctions, I'm fine.
that's brilliant. Yeah, it's a great excuse. Great excuse. I mean, I don't even write bollocks. I don't write bollocks. I write it with an X, so it doesn't
really?
give me the little warning.
Okay.
Are you sure you want to tweet this? It's not a swear word, is it? It's a made-up word.
I remember when I was like 13 and 14, and you know when you were at school, you had to cover your planners and your exercise books. They sent you home, and you had to cover your exercise books with like wallpaper or something.
Yeah, why did they do that?
I don't know. It was lovely. I loved it. It was like an art project.
Oh, I've always been crap at art.
I loved it. Like in year 7, it started off as like your mum's rubbish wallpaper from the spare room or whatever.
Oh my god, memories!
Yeah. But then by the time I got to like 14 and 15, I was reading NME and Kerrang and stuff. Like it was all like.
Oh my god, we were so different.
Yeah, really.
You had Kerrang and NME. I had Top of the Pops and Smash Hits.
Absolutely not. No, I was a skater boy. I had my septum pierced.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I had.
You would have been my type in school.
What do you mean in school?
Oh yeah, sorry.
I had like Shirley Manson and stuff, and on my planner I had I can't remember who it was it Super Furries had released an album called like The Man Don't Give a Fuck or something.
They've got a song called I think Northern Lights, and I bloody love it.
Yeah, they're great. So I put that on my planner, The Man Don't Give a Fuck, and I remember getting in real trouble for it.
I can imagine why though. I can imagine why. But then people, it's like society's changed obviously, and you know societies do change and they evolve and everything. But people can walk down the street now with a T-shirt saying "fuck" on the front of it, and I'm thinking, how is that not I don't know, a Section 5 public order offence?
Yeah.
You know, if somebody was to say, yeah, that's caused me alarm, surely they could get arrested for it.
Well,
I don't understand it.
I mean, I have issues with stuff like this.
I know it's only a word, but I do think of the little people.
But the little people are all getting it anyway. I mean, and this is not an excuse because actually I kind of lament it a little bit, and I do worry about it. The kids at school, I mean, from the word go in year 7, like it's F and sh and all over the place. I don't know how to say that like without laughing.
You can't laugh. You're Mr. Heard.
Yeah, absolutely. God, if any of the kids listen to this,
in school?
Yeah. That's weird.
I got massively told off when I first started high school because the teacher made me call him Sir Knight. He said, "Have you been knighted?" And it was genuine. I was asking the question. Why am I calling you? Why am I being made to call you Sir? I didn't have any friends, so I wasn't like showing to a crowd or anything. I was genuinely just maybe I was a little precocious brat. Wow.
I would have been like, really? Come on. Yeah. And it's stuff like they're all watching Hunger Games, stuff like that.
Squid Game.
I mean, Squid Game was a nightmare because year 7s were like coming in and talking about watching Squid Game, and I was like, have you? Like, I mean, really?
The Dharma things. There were kids dressing up as Jeffrey Dahmer for Halloween, and I remember seeing something I think on Twitter saying if he was going around killing young ladies in the way that he did not that long ago, would people be dressing up as him now? It
really worries me. Really worries me that actually the kids are kind of watching that kind of stuff. But it used to be that parents would like block it and stuff, you know. But I just don't think they do in the same way.
I wasn't allowed to watch an 18 until I was 18, likewise. 15 until I was 15.
I wasn't allowed to watch ITV.
Oh yeah, because that's so adult.
Because of my right-wing parent, one right-wing parent. Too many American TV shows.
Do you know what I love about the BBC? Everyone on Twitter says it's too left-wing, and then the other half of Twitter says it's too right-wing.
Absolutely.
You're watching Question Time, and everyone's like, "How dare they're too left-wing?" I'm like, does that not show you that it's quite balanced? Then, like, I mean, I love Questions. That's one of my favourite.
Have you ever? Did you ever watch W1A?
Yeah.
Oh, so every time I go to the BBC, that it just reminds me of W1A, because I just kind of think it is exactly that. You've got like everybody is just trying to be the most impartial that they possibly can be, and they're like, well, it's definitely not this, but it is mostly sometimes not this.
I love it when you get presenters and they move from the BBC to something else like LBC or something like that, and they're like, now I can let loose.
Emily Maitlis has just gone, post all over the place.
Do you know what? I went to a party in June and Emily Maitlis was there.
Oh,
and she
hold
was
on,
like,
let me just pick up that name from the floor that you just dropped again.
No, I couldn't speak to. There were two people at that party that I couldn't speak to. One was Julia Hartley Brewer, for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
I didn't even want to look at her. The other was Emily Maitlis, but for the opposite reason. She was like a goddess. She was like glowing. Yeah. And I remember stood outside. It was at the Hippodrome in Leicester Square. And I remember stood outside waiting for a friend to arrive. And before Gemma got there, Emily walked in and she had these tiny little not gold hot pants as in Kylie, but like these little shorts and these really high heels, and she just looked goddess. It was like, and I was thinking, I hope she's going to the party. Maybe I can speak to her. I couldn't. I was just like mouth open all the way through staring at her. Wow, she's beautiful. Stand out beautiful.
I went out for I'm just gonna put some names on the floor now. I went out for dinner with Lucy Meacock and Louise Minchin. One night. That was like really good fun. But you're absolutely right, because I think they are just so comfortable in themselves. So they must have to be, because they have to see themselves on screen all the time. So, like literally, it was like watching television for the entire evening. I'm pretty sure that I probably rubbed about 3 words together to them. But they were like just these kind of like amazingly intelligent people who were just kind of ridiculous. And you do fangirl a little, like when
I absolutely did. I was like, oh my god, there's West Streeting. And I was like, I said to my friend, please introduce me to West Streeting. And then about it must have been a bit longer, after a few glasses of wine, I was walking around with my arm around West Streeting, introducing him to other people, going, this is my mate Wes.
So this has happened. This is not the first time I've heard this about Wes, actually, because I've got a friend who knows him and has done exactly the same. So I just think he's a really good parliamentarian, to be fair.
I just wanted to follow on Twitter. I got it.
Oh, did you? Okay, right, Wes. If you're listening, then I'll do it. What was I going to say? Yeah, I think, and he's gay, right? I think, yeah. And I mean, I genuinely think he's a future leader for the Labour Party.
I said that to him. I said, you're going to be our first openly gay Prime Minister. And he just went, shh.
Is he just
he may have had a couple of wines as well, but
again, not the first time I've heard this about. This is I genuinely think those are the kind of people that people do want in politics. They don't want somebody who is like so straight down the line. They want people that is going to go out for a beer at the weekend. I think that is really important. Somebody that's like them.
Oh God, you're describing Boris Johnson, aren't you?
No, absolutely not. Because he doesn't go out for a glass of wine.
He pretends that he would go out for a beer with people.
Yeah, oh yeah. He gets Harrods to bring like bottles of Cristal to his ridiculously refurbished mansion and serve it in crystal cups.
Oh, you can't stand that, man. Anyway, let's bring this to a close. Thank you so much for today. It's been really informative and I've really enjoyed it. There's been lots of nice political chat, lots of mental health chat. Really enjoyed it. Thank you very much, and good luck on the 1st.
1st of December.
On the 1st of December.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.